When American media outlets describe Jungkook as the future of pop, the statement is not simply a reflection of temporary popularity or short-term achievements. It is rooted in measurable industry impact, consistent performance, and the alignment of his career trajectory with the long-term structures of the global music business. To understand why this label has become increasingly frequent, it is necessary to examine the foundational aspects of Jungkook's career that directly establish him as a central figure for the future direction of pop music. Jungkook is one of the few artists from South Korea to achieve a sustained presence in the US market as a soloist. This presence is not tied to collective group identity alone, but built on his ability to deliver individual projects that generate significant chart positions, streaming numbers, and media attention. Unlike many international artists who rely heavily on niche or diaspora audiences, Jungkook's solo work has reached mainstream listeners in the US, indicating a shift where a non-Western artist is treated on par with established American pop stars. For American media, this makes him a unique case study of global music integration, which is a key reason he is associated with the future of the industry. Streaming culture provides another layer of explanation. In recent years, US media have documented how music consumption has moved away from physical sales or even digital downloads towards streaming dominance. Jungkook's catalog consistently performs exceptionally well on platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music, with records of breaking daily streaming milestones upon release. His music demonstrates replay value and broad listener retention, metrics that American industry observers see as predictors of long-term relevance. By highlighting Jungkook's numbers, media are essentially signaling that he reflects where the industry itself is heading, toward artists who can dominate digital ecosystems across continents. The branding factor also strengthens the future of pop narrative. American media tend to emphasize artists who successfully combine music with lifestyle branding, as this extends influence beyond songs into cultural symbolism. Jungkook's role as a global ambassador for Calvin Klein is a key example. His campaigns have not only gone viral, but also redefined how fashion brands interact with musical figures in the global market. By embodying a hybrid role as both a musician and a cultural style icon, he reinforces the concept of pop as an industry where music, fashion, and identity are inseparably linked. Media portray him as someone who is already practicing what will likely become the dominant model for the next decade of pop stardom. Vocal versatility stands out as a practical, measurable asset. Unlike many pop artists who operate within narrow vocal ranges, Jungkook has shown the ability to adapt across genres R&B, EDM, ballads, and hip-hop influences while maintaining commercial success. US critics often highlight that this adaptability ensures longevity, as it prevents stagnation in an environment where musical trends change rapidly. Calling him the future of pop is not based solely on current songs, but on his proven capacity to remain musically relevant regardless of shifting industry tastes. American media are also responding to performance metrics that extend beyond traditional charts. For example, social media engagement, YouTube trends, and TikTok challenges have become crucial for predicting an artist's cultural staying power. Jungkook's music and presence consistently dominate these platforms, often with organic engagement rather than artificially engineered campaigns. This dominance shows how he aligns with the new forms of cultural consumption in the US, where virality and streaming synergy matter more than radio alone. Observers interpret this as evidence that he is shaping the mechanisms of pop distribution and audience connection in real time. Historically, American pop media have celebrated figures who symbolize cultural shifts, from the British invasion bands in the 1960 seconds to Latin artists breaking into the US. Mainstream in the late 1990 seconds. Jungkook represents a new wave, an Asian artist whose solo career competes directly in the American pop mainstream without compromise. For US outlets, framing him as the future of pop is not just about his personal success, but about the larger shift he symbolizes, the decentralization of pop music's origin points. This narrative aligns perfectly with media tendencies to frame individuals as representatives of broader cultural changes. Data on concert demand and global touring potential also reinforce this perception. Even before launching a formal solo tour, Jungkook's potential as a live performer has been measured by fan demand indicators, ticket sales of collaborative stages, and the projected scale of future events. In American media logic, an artist who can guarantee full-capacity stadiums across continents while also maintaining high streaming numbers represents not just current popularity but sustainable dominance. This scalability is a significant factor in their labeling him as a future-defining artist. The first aspect to address is the release strategy. Unlike traditional album cycles where artists promote heavily through radio and physical distribution, Jungkook's solo projects have been launched in ways that maximize digital-first impact. Singles such as 7 and 3D illustrate a direct-to-streaming approach, where success is measured not only by Billboard chart positions, but also by daily global streaming dominance. American media point out that Jungkook has embraced this approach with precision, showing an understanding of how the post-2020 seconds industry rewards immediacy, shareability, and continuous engagement. This positions him ahead of many Western peers who still rely heavily on older cycles of promotion. Genre blending is another strategy that reflects industry adaptation. Pop in the US has increasingly become genre fluid, with artists expected to navigate R&B, hip-hop, electronic, and alternative influences seamlessly. Jungkook's catalog demonstrates this flexibility, with tracks that comfortably span different production styles while maintaining strong commercial performance. For critics in the US, this is evidence that he does not need to follow trends, but can participate in setting them. By avoiding confinement to a single genre, he ensures relevance even as audience preferences evolve. This adaptability is essential in labeling him the future. Since future pop success depends on flexibility rather than static identity, collaborations provide additional insight. American media note that Jungkook's partnerships with US producers and artists are not random but strategically aligned with the goal of integrating into the US market while retaining global reach. By working with figures who already hold strong positions in American pop culture, Jungkook enters conversations from within, not as an outsider. This collaboration-driven approach mirrors how the global music industry increasingly operates, with cross-border features becoming central to chart success. Media recognize that Jungkook's presence in this collaborative ecosystem indicates that he is not only accepted, but sought after as a defining voice for the next phase of pop. Language strategy is another area of consideration. Jungkook often releases music primarily in English, which allows direct entry into US mainstream playlists, radio rotations, and wider listener accessibility. For American critics, this demonstrates an understanding of the cultural and commercial dynamics necessary to compete in the US market. At the same time, he retains the ability to perform in Korean or multilingual contexts, which maintains his global base. This dual strategy of linguistic accessibility combined with cultural authenticity reflects the kind of global-local balance that American media expect to dominate pop in the coming decade. The role of visual presentation is equally crucial. In the contemporary US pop industry, visuals, music videos, live performance aesthetics, fashion integration are as important as audio. Jungkook has consistently delivered high-production music videos with strong narrative and stylistic cohesion, aligning with the American standard where a pop release is expected to be an audio-visual event. Beyond that, his integration of performance choreography in a way that feels natural rather than forced makes his videos more universally engaging. This is a point US media emphasize, since the future of pop is projected to be highly visual, with platforms like YouTube and TikTok determining audience reach as much as streaming platforms. American outlets also stress Jungkook's media positioning. Interviews, appearances, and media coverage are handled with careful balance, accessible enough to connect with US audiences, but measured enough to avoid overexposure. In an industry where many artists lose long-term relevance due to saturation or media fatigue, Jungkook's controlled yet effective exposure aligns with the sustainable patterns that US observers identify as key for the future of pop careers. He is present in the media conversation consistently, but never in a way that risks overexposure, which positions him as a long-term figure rather than a momentary headline. Commercial alignment with global brands is another strategic layer. In the US, artists who successfully align with brands extend their relevance beyond music, turning into lifestyle icons. Jungkook's partnership with Calvin Klein exemplifies this. Media point out that his campaigns are not simple endorsements, but cultural events that trend internationally. This synergy between music identity and fashion branding signals how future pop stars are expected to operate not just as musicians, but as multi-platform cultural representatives. By embodying this role now, Jungkook is again framed as a direct representation of the pop industry's trajectory. In addition, American media focus on audience demographics. Jungkook attracts a broad range of listeners that go beyond the traditional K-pop fanbase. Data on streaming demographics, social media engagement, and audience surveys show that his listeners in the US include not only younger fans, but also general mainstream pop consumers. This cross-demographic appeal is particularly significant, as it indicates that his music functions beyond niche interest and competes directly with US household names in the pop category. Media emphasize this point because sustaining relevance across diverse audience groups is one of the defining characteristics of the future of global pop. Finally, resilience and scalability are considered. US media frequently analyze whether an artist's success is replicable and expandable. Jungkook's solo career demonstrates both his charting success is not tied to one song alone, and his market presence can be scaled across continents without losing effectiveness. This scalability reassures observers that his influence will not collapse once a single promotional cycle ends, which is a critical factor in identifying an artist as the future. In essence, he has already proven that his career model works in both localized and global contexts, a balance that few Western artists have fully achieved.